Hello and welcome to Zelda Speedruns. We are bringing you another hype match today between Mystik and prieR. And I'm going to hand it off to our commentator today, Cool Papa Bell, who's joining me because I am very tired. So thank you, Cool Papa Bell.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah, it's been a long day of rando already, and we are not done yet. So I'm looking forward to this match, and thanks for getting everything set up for us. So yes, this is a losers bracket match, officially round one of the losers bracket between Mystik and prieR. So we will get things started off as soon as we can here. Just to set the stakes a little bit, this is double elimination, so unfortunately the loser of a loser's bracket match will be out of the tournament. The winner will go on to face Scary Olive, who's about the 49 seed, and we're going to start things off fast with the lamp in Link's house. So a little bit of divergence already as prieR, or I'm going to say prieR, I think. I believe, judging by his challenge profile, he is a French speaker, so I'm going to assume that's prieR, but that's just sort of a guess on my part. Mystik is going to take this Goomba opening, gonna fake flipper up to the potion shop. You can check out a couple of one drop down. You can do the hula hand glitch if you want to. Meanwhile, prieR is gonna head around the south side, do a little bit of bomb farming, and then head into Kakariko Village from the south. I'm not actually sure who's opening to call this, but I know Goomba is relatively notorious for doing this opening all the time, so I'll stick with that. Mystik having a bit of trouble setting up the fake flipper up here. Trying to use a damage boost to get knocked against the side of the screen. And he's maybe just going to give up on that and just walk around the long way to get to the hula hand drop down over here. prieR, meanwhile, finding Eastern Palace right off the bat. Zero equipment, so we'll be going through more or less weaponless, but got 5 items to check here, even officially in logic with the lamp. And it looks like we have Magic Bat here at the Fairy drop down over on Mystik's side. So we will see that hula hand glitch from Mystik. It's always nice in cross keys, since you never know when you're going to run across a shop or something like that, to have the cash handy. So a lot of people like doing that hula hand right away. As we also find Thieves Town at the Hyrule Castle main entrance. There's another place where our runners can check a few items right off the bat, finding a Turtle Rock small key. I believe prieR found a Ganon's Tower small key over in Eastern Palace as well. So not particularly exciting, but things that we will need at some point. And it looks like Mystik is going to go ahead and Death Warp out of Thieves Town. We've still got the Uncle drop down to check just outside the door there, as prieR is just about finished with Eastern Palace. Again, nothing too exciting in there, other than that GT small key. Ooh, just misses the damage boost into the switch. Gets it that second time. So we find another small key to Pod, only 5 to go, and another Death Warp out. Uncle drop down giving us the well, so there's 5 quick items for Mystik. Ooh, no bombs though. So 4 quick items for Mystik, unless he manages to find some bombs in those first 4 checks. And we see the Ganon drop down is at the Magic Bat entrance today, so as of yet, no Aga 2 worries. Always good to track down all these drop downs as soon as possible, as Mystik finds the Tower of Hera big key inside the well. Mystik giving us our first save and quit to Sanctuary. We'll see where that lets out. The Misery Mire big key in the back of Tavern. Of course, that one entrance that is not randomized. And so the Sanctuary lets out at Lost Woods. It's a fairly convenient entrance, and there's the mirror. Sanctuary pretty close to where it normally is, but even closer to Kakariko Village, which is the direction you usually go from Sank. Mirror always a really good find early on in Cross Keys, since you just never know when you're going to find yourself in a strange part of the Dark World where you would like to mirror. Just all those mobility options are very good, as prieR makes his way into the mini Moldorm Cave. And does manage to finish off all of those mini Moldorms with just 3 bombs. Very nicely executed there. Finding the shovel on prieR's side, and Mystik finding an entrance to the front of Hookshot Cave inside Kakariko Village, and Ice Palace as well. So not too surprising that Mystik's going to hold off on following that connector through. Again, still doesn't have any bombs to get through the back, I guess, but you do want to check out a lot of entrances before you take that connector and let out who knows where. And prieR finding our first Dark World connector from the looks of things. Letting out in the brewery of the Village of Outcasts. So we are going to see our runners treading a lot of the same ground right now, as they've both made some initial checks and are making their way into Kakariko Village. And Mystik finding the well, finding the Uncle passage, I'm guessing, at the well, and another pod small key. And prieR taking some time to do some rupee farming here at the Bombable Hut, rather than the Houlihan glitch that Mystik opted for, but we did definitely find a fair number of rupees in chests so far, as we get a hint that Ether is in Thieves Town. And both of our runners hot on each other's heels by buying that small key to Skullwoods. Those Skull small keys are a little bit more valuable in entrance rando, just because you never know when you're going to waltz into the back of Skullwoods. And that small key lets you get all the way back to Mothula, as long as you have a sword, of course. And some sort of fire to light those torches. So yeah, we see their prieR also opting out of tracing Hookshot Cave all the way back at this moment. Again, just trying to get as much information as possible. Ooh, there's bottom of Super Bunny also. So connectors galore here in Kakariko Village. But our runner's not opting to follow them yet until they have a little bit more complete information about the options available to them. So here we are with the rare developer-intended Super Bunny Cave strats. With no equipment yet, we're sort of stuck here. So prieR is opting to end his trip through Kakariko Village here, since Super Bunny is a one-way trip with this drop-down he's about to do. And just some arrows and a compass, unfortunately for the items, but we'll see where the other end of the cave lets us out at. So that leads us to the back of Old Man. That's actually a really good way to end that Kakariko trip, since now prieR is up on Death Mountain with tons of entrances to check. He did not make it up to Lost Woods, though, to find that mirror, so that's definitely going to be a concern going forward, since that mirror is such an important movement item here. Ooh, and our friend the Old Man leaving some flippers. As that is the Death Mountain Descent Cave, I think, that prieR just found. We'll see, again, opting not to follow the connector just yet. Ooh, and unfortunately taking a death there from those blasted rocks. So we'll see where the Uncle Cave lets us out. Lets us out on Bumper Ledge. Again, once we have that mirror, that'll be really helpful, and that's pretty good Dark World access as well. So we found two ways really into the Dark World in the Village of Outcasts area so far. So those are definitely nice to have once we have that Moon Pearl. And of course, there is always the option that some bunny walking is required in Logic, that we might have to cut through one of those entrances and wander around the Dark World until we find some connector back into the Light World and do something ridiculous from there. So prieR checking the back of Escape for us, finding the magic powder. I think when Mystik was there before, he did not have any bombs. That's sort of been a running problem for him this early on in the seed, unfortunately. And here comes that mirror pickup for prieR. Ooh, another really nice location for prieR. That was, I think, the right side of Hyrule Castle, but any way into there just gives us access to front of Escape, all the items down there, and several entrances to check out, well, exits more appropriately. Again, prieR is going to check a couple more entrances over here to the right as we find the Lost Woods hideout at Lumberjack. So prieR will go scout this item for us and see if Aga 1 is in our future. It is not. That heart piece probably not essential. So now Mystik is going to clean up some of these bomb-required checks. We'll find the magic powder here, which we do have access to the magic bat if we would like to. Looks like prieR is headed that direction. We can check out the vanilla sank entrance, see what that drop down is, and then go to magic bat if we want to. So Sanctuary leads us to the ferry, the Houlihan ferry, which means let's see, the pyramid drop down is the vanilla lumberjack location. So there is one item behind Aga 2, which odds are it will not be particularly required or particularly enticing to our runners since there's only one item there, but it will be sort of lurking around in the back of our mind. And it looks like we're going to see a little bit of convergence here as prieR checks out the magic bat and finds a small key to pod. So that's the third one we found, I believe. And meanwhile, Mystik has decided to head into Hyrule Castle and see what we can find in here. Again, not a whole lot of progress we can make down through the front of Escape right now with no weapon. But Mystik will head back to Dark Cross here, it looks like, and then check out the other entrances that we can find leaving Hyrule Castle. Meanwhile, prieR is checking the potion shop area, which again, Mystik fake flippered to very early on, but prieR has not been over to yet. So now that prieR has that mirror, we'll see one of the uses of that, taking Bumper Ledge back to the Death Mountain Descent exit, which finds his King's Tomb for just a heart piece. Meanwhile, the Hyrule Castle main exit takes us out to the top of Super Bunny, I believe that was. So another spot where the mirror can come in handy. Oh, and Floating Island as well. So we'll get a free item right here and access to Eastern Death Mountain. As to no one's surprise, that mirror is being very helpful immediately. So we will see a little bit more bunny walking. We'll check out the Turtle Rock main entrance, requires Quake. And Vanilla Top of Paradox, alright. As Mystik having some trouble getting past those mini Moldorms. Again, a weapon would be really nice to find if the game wanted to, give us that at any point in time. Ooh, the flute for Mystik. As prieR has now found his way to the Hyrule Castle main entrance and Thieves' Town. Mystik might have some issues here. Only has 2 bombs left to try and finish off these last 2 mini Moldorms to try and get out of Paradox Cave. That hookshot will definitely help. Ooh, and the Eastern Palace big key, which is pretty nice since we know where Eastern is. That just opens up one more check right now until we get the bow and can finish that dungeon, but... Alright, so we have a connector from the Sahasrarla's hut entrance into Paradox Cave, which then actually lets out at Paradox. Mystik, I think, maybe went the wrong way here, since we still have the lower Paradox exit to check, which is, I think, where we're headed right now. So not an especially exciting connector, but Mystik is going to take this opportunity to check out Lumberjack while he is in the area, and the entrance is over here. And he will see this heart piece in just a second on the Lost Woods hideout ledge, I believe. And then I would not be surprised to see him duck back into Paradox Cave and explore a couple more entrances up on East Death Mountain. And get to, let's see, all four if you choose the right drop-down of those down below. And you can check out one of the drop-down entrances if you want to. But it's always just a pain to check all of those drop-down entrances on East Death Mountain because it's hard to get back up the mountain in entrance rando. Looks like Mystik is also going to track down this magic bat check. Sees the ferry there at Sank. And we've got a couple new checks on prie's side with these shops and fortune teller around Lake Hylia. Finds the bombable hut, a nice spot to stock up on some bombs. And I would expect we'll see prie heading further east from here over into the Eastern Palace area and should find this connector up to Paradox to pick up Hookshot and Flute up there. I guess he's also got the flipper checks that he could be making right now as he dives into the water. We see a big 20 on the island. And a Desert Palace entrance. Get another spot where bombs could come in handy. I've definitely run into this room before when I didn't have enough ammo to kill all of the Ropas. Get your swag duck salutes in chat for our national anthem on Mystik side. Ooh, and there's our fire rod, which is boots locked in Desert Palace. That said, the central ledge on East Death Mountain, I think that's the Light World version of the Laser Bridge exit, if I had to guess. So that's one drop down we don't have to check. It does lead to a hint, but I'm not sure that's necessarily worth the extra trip to the top of Death Mountain for it. As we find another connector to the Dark World near Village of Outcast, and Mystik dips back into Hookshot Cave now with the proper equipment to get these items in here and probably check the connector out the back. So the left side of Desert Palace, not especially exciting. Costs prie his non-bunny status, unfortunately. As we get our first bottle of the seed. Ooh, and a sword for Mystik as well. So finally a weapon. So if that's really where our first sword is supposed to come from, that'll make prie's trip up to East Death Mountain even more important to get that hookshot and then retrieve the sword out of Hookshot Cave here. And Mystik finds another connector into the mire area, another spot where that mirror comes in handy. This will give us one more entrance to check. Can't check the back of Desert Palace just yet without a glove, but we also saw the Vanilla Misery Mire entrance being Quake, so both of our medallion-locked entrances are going to rely on Quake, which naturally is not the medallion we got a hint about a while ago. As Mystik also finds Palace of Darkness here at the desert ledge entrance to Desert Palace. I swear there's always a dungeon on that desert ledge. Right, of course, we can check the back with the mirror. It's the checkerboard entrance that unfortunately we can't do without the glove just yet. Alright, so here we see prieR in Paradox Cave coming through the Sahasrara entrance. As Mystik was just taking a little bit of damage there to set up for this potion glitch. Just unlock the old camera, get all the mimics off the screen, and then suddenly the game thinks you've killed them. Ooh, there's our Swamp Small Key on the right side of Pod, so that is bow-locked by logic. That's something to keep in mind. And Mystik, with 3 Pod Small Keys to work with, will open up the middle door here. It's the only way to get to the back currently without the hammer. There's a big key for Turtle Rock. So these chests in the back are the only ones in logic right now with the number of keys that we have, but I would not be surprised to see Mystik try Dark Maze as well, just because there are 2 more items we can get there without the pod big key, unfortunately. Ooh, and there's our Moon Pearl in the I think that's the map chest of Palace of Darkness. So again, that one definitely is in logic with the keys that we have, I believe. Or yes, yes it is. Any of these other doors that Mystik wants to open would not be in logic, though, just because the game doesn't know which one you're going to open first. So we're going to do a hammer yump from the looks of things to save a key getting into Dark Maze. And then we might just wrap up by doing the vanilla big key, drop down into the basement, check out those 2 chests there just for routing purposes to make that easier. prieR, meanwhile, has found Spiral Cave and is going to follow that through, rewarded with 300 rupees. Magic Cape for Mystik. And so the bottom of Spiral Cave is the main Desert Palace entrance. So that takes away some value from the book, since that's one of its main purposes in Entrance Randomizer. And yeah, Mystik will save that last key and just Death Warp and save and quit out. Or nope, we'll just take a Death Warp when you have the mirror. That's an interesting choice. And prieR also will. Yes, of course. Chat reminding me what's going on. This is a save scum setup. So if he finds nothing good with this small key, he can just go ahead and hard reset. And since he just saved and quit right before he used the key, he'll still have it after the hard reset. So yep, there was the hard reset there. So he's still got that small key for when he comes back to pod later. So prieR, similarly, finding the flute and hook shot in the Paradox Cave area when activated the flute, and is now back up Death Mountain, checking out the remaining entrances up here. So yes, here comes that mirror to the back of Desert as prieR is climbing up, or trying to mirror to the back of Desert, as prieR is climbing up to the Tower of Hera entrance, which is Laser Bridge for us. So once again, these laser skips not in logic, but oh, the bow on Laser Bridge, where it apparently always is anymore. The book, another nice find. And then prieR takes the death there. That seemed intentional because there's really nothing else to be done from that particular point of Turtle Rock with the items that we have. All right, so that bow is behind the laser bridge logic, which requires either the mirror shield or the some sort of invincibility item. So we have seen the cape in the dark maze of Pod. So it would take a couple more Pod small keys before that's in logic. In fact, all 6 of them. So we need to find all the Pod small keys before the cape was in logic. The Cane of Burna still at large. So it's not clear exactly what's required to put that bow in logic. Again, that's not too much of a concern to our runners to break the logic, but it can be helpful to keep track of what the game was expecting you to do, which can help you track down where some needed items might be. Meanwhile, Mystik has found the back of Skullwood, so that one Skullwood small key that we saw earlier is going to come in handy. We'll see another sequence break here from the looks of things. That without the fire rod, you can still get through this room. Mystik's going to take some time to kill the Gibdos, just will make things easier. But so the trick here is he's going to bomb jump across the gap in the top of the room, light the takes a death. Light the torch up there, fall in the pit, which warps you back to the front of the room, and then you can light the rest of the torches and get out. So that fairy that he just found will come in handy here. It's going to switch to cape strats to try and get through these Gibdos. They are a pain to kill with the fighter sword and no other weapon. So Mystik just waiting for the Wall Master there to drop down and stay out of his way during this process. So we saw the bomb jump there, fall in the pit, and then that gives you ample time to light the other 3 torches with the lamp and get out of this room. So yeah, now here comes the real test, is this Fighter Sword Mothula fight, as prieR is opting to follow another connector through. This is the annoying way to follow this connector, unfortunately, just a lot longer around. And that will let out on the Laser Bridge exit, which again we more or less had access to before. prieR will take this opportunity to mirror and then drop down to these entrances on the light side of East Death Mountain. Or just flute away. Never mind. So Mystik spinning his way through this Mothula fight. Switching to cape strats for a couple of slashes there, but running pretty low on health at this point. Breaks out the hook shot for some potential invincibility frames as needed. Ooh, and down to just the last heart. Takes a death. Yeah, that is a tough fight to pull off. And unfortunately, the safeties that Mystik had, the red potion and the fairy in a bottle, got used elsewhere, so... Mystik also finding the back of Desert there. No big key, so nothing to be done right there. So prieR finding the Thieves Town big key at the capacity ferry, so he is going to track down these flippers checks now. Mystik finds the back of Spiral Cave, which is pretty useless. So Mystik gonna find, I believe, some arrows and a compass here in Super Bunny Cave. As prieR is now up in the Zora region of the world. We'll see the Waterfall Cave entrance. Just leads us to the archery game. But, of course, has the cache for Zora at this point, so we'll see 2 more item checks in Zora's domain proper. So Mystik about to get his flippers from the old man. Finds a shop, but opts not to pick up a potion there. So just some love from Zora's domain today. 1 1/4 heart pieces to be found up there. Cabbages are not being kind to Mystik. I believe we'll see Mystik catch up with a lot of the checks that prieR has made up here on Death Mountain now. Of course, with the hookshot to get across to the right side when we need to. But so far, Mystik's big advantage is that Moon Pearl, which was found deep in Palace of Darkness. Let's see, Palace of Darkness was on the Desert Ledge, which we got to by finding a connector that came out the Mire Shed. I forget which connector that was at this point, but prieR has definitely not found it just yet. He will, though, get deeper into the front of Escape than Mystik did, since he is full up on bombs, or was full up on bombs when he started at least, and has got the bow now to use as a more reliable weapon for these palace guards. Finds the blue mail. Can't hurt. So now Mystik will also wind up at Laser Bridge and pick up his bow shortly, as we find our first Agate Tower small key. So that opens up a second item in Agate Tower once we find it. Mystik taking a hit there on his first attempt at the laser skip. This is very tricky without the boots. You really have to time it really precisely. But the cape is now handy. So again, this cape does not really put this in logic yet, because the cape itself is out of logic as far as I know. So we see prieR also heading back into Dark Cross for his big 20. So Ice Palace small key on the Ether tablet as prieR finds himself on top of East Death Mountain, and we'll check out the Spike Cave entrance. That dropped down just a fortune teller. Mystik was being very smart in checking out the sort of northern entrances all the way up Death Mountain before checking out these drop downs, and then sort of going to work his way back down. Finds the potion shop, and now we'll opt to refill on potions. A couple of blue pots here. So question in chat about who is ahead. It's pretty tough to call. I mean, prieR has had the bow for longer, and the flippers for longer, so he's definitely made some checks off of those that Mystik has not, and will definitely have to take the time to. That Moon Pearl is definitely a good find, though, because it was sort of deep down a rabbit hole of connectors and a short bunny walk, and then a trip deep into pod. So assuming Mystik can sort of make up the other checks before prieR finds that Moon Pearl, which is likely, given how much of a pain it was, Mystik might have a little bit of an edge here, but we'll just see how things shake out. Here's another advantage that prieR is going to have, is, uses that Eastern Palace big key to find the first glove of the game. So that's why it's dangerous to say who's ahead, because you just never know who's going to then immediately find a really key item like that glove, as prieR is going to head back and finish off Eastern Palace here as well. Mystik also finding an entrance to Misery Mire. And we'll use the hookshot on that one small key that he has. Ooh, the big key as well, so we can clear out the whole front of Misery Mire, everything except Vitreous. So prieR finding another pod small key. Okay, so that's interesting logic-wise, that a pod small key is locked behind the bow, so it cannot have been the cape that was meant to unlock Laser Bridge, right? We also know there's a shield on Helmasaur, so that's behind the bow. So the Cane of Burna must be available somewhere, and that's what the game intended for us to get to be able to unlock those Laser Bridge items. And now we see Mystik actually doing this block push-in puzzle as intended. You can do it in one cycle like this with the lamp without having to go back and forth between the rooms. It's a little bit tight, but gets that cutscene going. And now we see prieR is pressing his advantage with that glove that he found, just opening up a couple of quick glove checks. Ooh, we find a big key at the Flute 5 location, to big key to Ice Palace. So a fair bit of that is in logic right now. Again, we can't fully clear without the hammer, unfortunately. And prieR still showed a sword, as it turns out, so he is not too keen on the Ice Palace idea right now, I bet. Another Turtle Rock small key from Mystik. Those are a little bit less exciting in entrance rando, just because you find so many back ways into Turtle Rock that you can sneak your way around a couple of the keys. Ooh, and there's Tower of Hera that prieR has found. We have the big key there, so we can climb all the way up to everything but the basement, except prieR still has no weapon with which to actually kill Moldorm, unfortunately. You need a sword or the hammer to fight Moldorm, but we'll see if he opts into the couple of chests up the tower. He does. Some nice use of the hookshot to knock those blue bumper things into the pit. And there's the pod big key for Mystik. So between the save scumming and the pod small keys that we have now, I think Mystik can clear out everything but Harmless Hellway from Palace of Darkness. Assuming he wants to go back and hammer Yump to check out the big chest as well. And Misery Mire turned out to not be particularly interesting, unfortunately. So I think this might be the chain that prieR needs to follow to track down the Moon Pearl, because I think one of these entrances might be the one that leads out of the Mire Shed. Ooh, more access to East Death Mountain. We'll see what prieR opts for here, as Mystik is checking out the bottom of East Death Mountain. I believe prieR has already checked most of those entrances, if I'm not mistaken. Ooh, wait, when did Mystik get silver arrows? Were those in Mire? If so, I take back what I said about Mire not being exciting. So cross keys can be a pretty swingy game, but it seems like right now prieR is having some issues as a result of not having tracked down that moon pearl yet. So looks like he's scrambling around just a little bit for places to go. There was a little bit of thinking on that flute screen about where to go next. All right, so he is going to head back into the back of Thieves Town here. Once again, really short on weaponry. Has nothing that can damage blind, unfortunately. So he can clear out the back 3 chests. Nope, sorry, no small key. So only 2 chests here to be found. And he might potentially orphan the big chest since he does not have the small key to work with right now. So prieR will get another hint out of this that we'll check right now. Another joke hit, thank you, game. And we are about to see one of the 2 items that prieR is going to get out of the back of Thieves Town here. There has been no PED check yet. We've only seen the ether tablet checked. We don't really have super reliable access to the southern part of the Dark World to have gotten to Bombos, and they've just not opted for a pedestal check as of yet. So a big 20 in the attic chest. Hint was the northmost Dark World building. I'm not entirely sure what that means. Is that the Dark Lumberjack house, maybe? And then just 10 arrows for prieR. So unfortunately, we're going to orphan the big chest here. prieR is going to deliver blind to the room upstairs and then, I presume, mirror out, so it'll be easy to get back to the boss later. We do have a hint that ether is in Thieves Town, and we are pretty sure that ether is completely useless. As far as I know, it will not be needed at all, so if that turns out to be in the big chest, that's obviously perfectly fine to leave behind. So prieR is now probably in the mode of following up on connectors, since he's checked, I believe, all the entrances that we have. Heading back into Desert Palace. And exiting out the left side, which will take us to one of these many exits near the village of outcasts. So prieR is going to try some bunny walking and hopefully find something interesting, but we know the moon pearl is not in this direction, unfortunately. So that was a bunny revival glitch from prieR there. You saw him taking the damage coming up into Skullwood so that he could die very quickly inside the dungeon. And then when you save and continue from right there, you revive as Link. So this is, again, all out of logic, but hopefully... or prieR rather, is hoping to find a sequence break that will lead him in the right direction. So, for example, the mitts would be really helpful here if he could track them down, because then that would get him into the mire area and over to his moon pearl, which is hiding up on the desert ledge behind the inside of Palace of Darkness. I had to remember what the chain was there. So we'll now see Mystik following in prieR's footsteps, also heading up Tower of Hera, with the advantage of a sword, though, so he will be able to fight Moldorm right now. And there is prieR's first sword. He's got to be very relieved to find that, although a little concerned that he had to sequence break to do it. Ooh, Mystik in the vanilla Moldorm fight with Fighter Sword only, unfortunately gets knocked back into that center hole, falls down 2 floors, and will climb back up to take another crack at the Troll Worm. And prieR Sword is opting into the same fight, is going to head back into Tower of Hera right now, which is at the vanilla eastern entrance. So it seems like Mystik is really trying to wrap up all of his light world entrances that he can get through. Switching to Cape Strats for the last part of the Moldorm fight. Can be very helpful in the super speed mode for Moldorm there. And there's our blue cane. Alright, so now Laser Bridge and the bow are in logic. They were just locked behind this Moldorm fight, which the Tower of Hera entrance was very easily accessible. In fact, a Sphere Zero entrance. So that resolves the how did we get Laser Bridge in logic question at the very least. But yeah, as I was saying, Mystik is, I think, just wrapping up the last few Light World entrances. We do have several ways to get into the Dark World near the Village of Outcasts, but Mystik is going to be thorough with Light World stuff here. And there was that cave that I think maybe was the connector that we found before, which led to the Mire area and all of those desert entrances, which prieR has not found yet. So there, prieR gets through the Moldorm fight. will also now get that extra knowledge of the logic with the blue cane. The one thing prieR does have, though, is that glove from Eastern Palace. So you expect that Mystik will probably head there fairly soon, since he's got the bow as well and can finish it off. So, you know, fully clearable dungeons are always tempting in randomizer, especially in entrance rando, when you just expect to have to double dip lots of stuff anyway. So prieR now, continuing to chase the sword checks down, is going to head back in to fight blind. Unfortunately, having mirrored out before, will be off script. Probably not too much of a concern with blue mail and 10 hearts, though, so... so here's what one of the things that Mystik left behind when low on items earlier on. Mini Moldorm Cave, which we're headed back to. Just the shovel in there, which prieR has checked. I forget what was in there, though. Meanwhile, prieR is opting for the blue cane blind fight, which definitely makes things a bit easier with that full magic bar that he picked up after defeating Trolldorm, and which will refill itself right now, so really no penalty for that at all. And yeah, now Mystik is going back into Eastern Palace and will come out with a glove and get access to all those cave entrances under rocks and whatnot. So a second crystal for Mystik that we'll probably also see fairly, for prieR, that we'll probably also see fairly soon from Mystik, since he just picked up the Thieves Town big key as well. And so now prieR is in connector mode, but doing some more bunny walking. He's just going to see where these entrances go. So there's half magic in the library, which is the archery game, very close to its normal place, just down a bit and over a dimension. prieR is going to take this mirror spot to check out the left entrance to the Quarling Brothers hut. This is the only way to get here from this side in the entrance rando, which finds the big bomb shop for us. Is opting not to talk to the proprietor of the big bomb shop to get the information about the 5-6 crystals. And now we'll see Mystik's Armos fight with the silver arrows, which will go even faster than prieR's did. This is so close to what prieR needs. He needs to be outside of the Mire Shed, not inside it. Just bombs and arrows. So unfortunately, these in-logic checks, again, these are possibly required by the logic to do this walking around as a bunny and then mirroring back to the light world in particular places. Not leading to anything for prieR right now, unfortunately. So again, Mystik just kind of wrapping up these overworld checks. He's got the shovel check here, which led to the desert small key. All right, that frees up a couple of checks. DP Desert Palace is at the Lake Hylia shop, which is pretty readily accessible. There are also a couple of entrances up with the glove right now, which I think he's headed toward the Ruby Cave down by the desert, and then over by Ice Rod Cave. We're finding Sick Kid at the Vanilla Swamp entrance with, unfortunately, no bottle. Oh, and there's a connector at the dam entrance, which I'm not sure if prieR has followed just yet. But now we'll get Bombo's tablet, which again is in logic to at least look at. It's theoretically in logic if prieR ever tracks down the second sword, but just a heart piece. I see prieR checked that before. I didn't see what it was, but that's an annoying spot for the Smiths at the rock cave in front of Ice Rod Cave. And prieR is definitely in connectors mode. He's going back behind Old Man, followed the connector at the front of Old Man, which just led him to Desert Right. And now Mystik is headed back towards Desert Palace to track down this small key that he just found. And now I think prieR is in the right spot, following this unfortunately long connector through to the Mire area. Who stopped to think about it for a second, but is headed all the way through. Right, so here was where Mystik found his first sword. So prieR will find his second here, of course. And prieR's first bottle, which would have been handy for the Sick Kid find just a minute ago. And finally, prieR is in the right spot of the world, finds this connector through to Misery Mire, out the back of Hookshot Cave, and will find Palace of Darkness right here with 4 pod keys. He and the bow, in fact, he can clear out pretty much all of this with just a Hammer Yump and maybe 1 Save Scum. Well, I guess if he chooses to skip Helma, he can do everything but Helma with just a Hammer Yump. would say not really choosing to skip Helma since he can't do Helma. He can do everything else if he wants to. And Mystik, meanwhile, finds the brewery in the Dark World Lumberjack's hut. I believe that was the hint that we got before about the northernmost building in the Dark World. Was that hut right there? As prieR also picks up his Swamp Small key. Always a really important one. So yeah, prieR is skipping the vanilla big key chest for now, probably setting up either a save scum with his low key situation, or just going to skip it altogether, depending. So Mystik has been a little bit ahead with this Moon Pearl, but really hasn't found anything earth-shattering, and right now is just tracing back over some things that prieR did with a sequence break. So has not gotten wildly ahead with it. This is still a pretty close race since prieR is about to find his Moon Pearl right now, I believe. Oh, that is big. Getting to pod a little bit later for prieR, he finds the mitts in Harmless Hellway. He had one extra key and chose to use it in a very good spot. Mitts can be really important in entrance rando. A little bit less so now, since we've already gotten to the Mire area via connectors. But this will give us a faster way back there if we ever want it. And it does open up the Ice Palace main location, as well as all the normal checks that are behind mitts, smiths, and purple chest and whatnot. And the smith is important because we know where the smith's delivery point is. That's a little bit out of the way, but pretty accessible by flute. It's right outside of Ice Rod Cave. prieR, unfortunately, still does not have the pod big key to be able to open that chest right now. But the mitts are a really good find in here for him. So prieR is opting not to save scum, as it turns out. He's just going to leave that vanilla big key chest behind. Again, that's somewhat reasonable since it's out of logic right now, but given that he just found the mitts in an out of logic chest, might be tempting to do that, but I think dipped back into the Mire Shed out of habit there, since that was the way he got here originally. He is also here in the Mire area with gloves, so he will get a look at Checkerboard Cave, which Mystik did not when he was here before. Ooh, and finds the Laser Eye entrance to Turtle Rock. Again, this is another nice entrance where we can sort of cheat our way back through a couple more chests. Let's see, we've got the big key, but we can't get to the big chest right now. We can check Lava Bridge, a Lava Chest rather, and the Chain Chomp's room at least. And if prieR wants to use his one small key for it, we can get back to the front, although there's nothing we can check there, so he won't be doing that. Never mind. He could, though, make his way forward to the crystal roller room, though, to get one more check out of this dip into Turtle Rock. This is a little odd. Mystik has been here just to open up the right side of Desert, but only has two things marked off of his compass there, which means he hasn't checked this chest to the right. That's a little strange, but might have just slipped his mind before. And the single arrow in the chain chomp room. That was a worthwhile trip that prieR is going to feel really good about, I'm sure. Meanwhile, he is going to find two dungeons over here. The back of Desert and the back of Skull Woods are here at the various Light and Dark World versions of Agina's Cave. prieR a little bit better equipped for fighting Mothula if he wants to go back there. Master Sword, a big improvement over the Fighter Sword fight. He will have to do a similar sequence break with the pit and the bomb jump and everything to actually get back there with just the torch, though, but it looks like he is opting into that. Alright, so meanwhile, Mystik is in Village of Outcasts with the Moon Pearl, meaning that he can make some checks that prieR just had to run past before. Finds the top of Bumper Cave. Does have the cape, and the hookshot, of course, so can get through there with no problem, but is going to opt to check out some other entrances before he follows connectors. The early Skull Woods dip for prieR also paying off that he had an extra Skull Woods small key that he could use to get back to Mothula once he got here. We'll see how he does with this Master Sword fight. He also has both of the safeties that the game has given us available. He's still got that fairy in a bottle and the red potion as well, since he had a little bit easier time getting through Skull Woods than Mystik did. Mystik will talk to the Big Bomb proprietor for us, so Thieves Town and Pod are the 5-6 crystals today. So Mystik now has complete information about the crystals and pendants. We will not actually have to finish Turtle Rock, which means that Fire Rod on the Desert Torch is not as required as it originally seemed. That's interesting. Obviously, it's required for Mothula to be in Logic, so those boots have to be around somewhere. But our runners won't 100% need that to finish the game unless some weird shenanigans happen somewhere with. Well, it depends on Ice Palace. They'd have to find Bombos to get into Ice Palace without the Fire Rod, so I shouldn't get too far ahead of myself. Nice moment there as prieR finds a Mimic Cave right as Mystik tracks down the hammer on the digging game. So, again, if this was some sort of shared item randomizer, that would have been very nice for prieR. Yeah, Fire Rod is only hard required for Trinax, of course logically required for some other stuff. It's medium required for the right side of Ganon's tower. You can do a similar trick with the lamp to light those torches on the right side, but it's significantly harder than the Skull Woods one. And there's another pod small key on Stumpy, so Mystik is now fully equipped for pod. And now prieR is right behind Mystik, checking out all of these Village of Outcasts entrances. And he will get his hammer pretty soon as well. So it looks like prieR is gonna swing up to the Witch's Hut. Ooh, Mystik finding the other Aga Tower key. That's only his first. I forget where prieR found his first one. But so prieR gonna check out the shop and dark lumberjack entrance and graveyard ledge. It would appear on his way down through everything, but he's pretty much cleared out Skull Woods already. So thinking about what we need to finish the game. Now we found the hammer. That was a huge piece of things. It's really just the red cane as far as items go. Since we'll need that to... Oh, wait. Misery Mire and Turtle Rock are both pendants. Once again, except for right side of GT, red cane is not super required. We can get to the back of Desert. We've got to track down the Desert Palace small key. Hera has been beaten. I think that's missing from Mystik's tracker, but I believe he has beaten Moldorm. Mystik could completely finish Palace of Darkness right now. Swamp, we are equipped for once we find it. And Ice Palace, we're going to need the boots to get the Fire Rod or Bombos to access. So we need one item for Ice Palace, a couple of keys, and we're actually closer to finishing this game than it first appears, I believe. So Mystik is going to dip back into pod right now. As I said, he does have everything he needs to finish that, and we'll just head back to Harmless Hellway since he save scummed for the big key chest right there a little bit ago. We'll head to Helmasaur first. Let's hope he goes back and grabs those mitts. Again, it may not be required, but it does give us access to a couple of entrances that we might need. Because we've still got the Ice Palace entrance and the Turtle Rock main entrance, and then the Hammer Pegs entrance as well is going to be locked behind mitts. Yeah, we've not seen any part of Swamp. We got the Swamp small key well before we had any idea where Swamp or the dam was. So let's see, prieR is in the eastern part of Dark World right now. That gives him a couple more entrances to check out. There's the weird hut outside of pod, and the pod entrance itself that we can check. There's always the 5-6, the pyramid crack entrance. Oh, prie's headed toward the pyramid as well. I haven't thought about that. We've got the 3 entrances on top of Hyrule Castle that no one has checked yet. Normally when you find the mirrors so early, you get really excited about checking those, since that's the main way to get there short of finding a connector. But 3 quick entrances prieR is going to check out right now, which is about as good as it gets entrance-wise at this point in the game. Nothing that the Vanilla Aga problem. Vanilla Aga entrance. We find Blind's hut, as Mystik gets that shield off of Helmasaur that we were promised by a hint quite a while ago. So a lot of big finds there in Blind's hut. Finding the boots and Quake, which Quake opens up 2 more entrances for prieR at Misery Mire and Turtle Rock. Also finding the boots, which will unlock the Fire Rod, which will then let us go all the way through Ice Palace, although prieR has not managed to find his hammer just yet. And of course the red mail is just a nice convenience item at this point in the game. There's the Ice Rod also, which makes you a little nervous that maybe we're supposed to go kill Trinex, but we'll see, as Mystik does dip back into the back of Pod to find his mitts there. And a 5th pod small key for prieR as well. And just bombs in the big chest in the back of Pod. Yeah, so here we go again. That's Blind's hut find. Ooh, there's the dam also. So another little step forward for prieR there. That Blind's hut find had some really important items for him, but without the hammer, he can't really take full advantage of them, unfortunately. So we'll hope that one happens soon. Meanwhile, Mystik dipping back into Mimic Cave, which he found earlier without the hammer. And just an empty bottle. Of course, prieR now has the dam open whenever he happens to find Swamp Palace, which you hope is after he finds his hammer. He can actually get into it. This is where, unfortunately, that bunny walking sequence breaking that, I guess not sequence breaking, but the bunny walking that prieR was doing a while ago is coming back to hurt him a little bit, because things like Cave 45 he's already checked, so there's a little bit less value in the south side of Dark World for him, which is why he opts to go around to the north side, check out Catfish Pyramid, Pod, etc., the way he's going right now. But with the mitts, he can just head back over to the west side and be ready to go back up into Village of Outcasts if he wants to. So that's definitely the part of the world that's going to be most appealing to him at this point. And as we know, it's holding his hammer, so it will be good to head in that direction. Meanwhile, Mystik heading back for some revenge on Mothula now that he's a little bit better equipped. Master Sword is an improvement. Can also use the hammer if he wants to, but that's a trickier fight. But shorter if you can do it well. So prieR's newfound boots are going to open up King's Tomb. It's another entrance that we get. So there's the front of Turtle Rock. Again, useless without the cane. Back of Skull Woods leads to Ganon's Tower. That's a nice hint. That might lead prieR to dip back into Desert very quickly. Yeah, very nice moth fight from Mystik over there on the left side. Does definitely get his revenge very nicely. So yeah, prieR is taking that hint about Ganon's Tower very seriously. Just such a wealth of items in the basement of GT that he's going to get his fire rod right away, and then probably take that to Skull Woods and open up that back entrance immediately. Does mean he's leaving behind a couple of the entrances that the boots open up, both of the bonk rocks behind Link's house and the standard bonk rocks up by the sanctuary. He's not done yet, although he might get those sank ones on the way right now. No, he's fluting over, never mind. Not saving and quitting. So those couple of entrances are still floating, along with the Quake entrances and Vanilla Ice Palace as well are the ones that he's opened up recently and not gone to check out yet. But again, Ganon's Tower is very tempting since we're still trying to track down a couple of big keys and whatnot. It is unlucky, though, that prieR is probably going to clear as much of Ganon's Tower as he can looking for the hammer, but I guess since it's the hammer that he's missing, there's not so much he can do in here. With no cane for the right side and no hammer for the left-hand side, there's actually not much in here to check, so... I admit I'm a little bit less convinced about this this trip into Ganon's Tower than I was before, now that I think about it. So we'll set up everyone's favorite ped check, though. So a Ganon's Tower small key, that can definitely be left behind. Not going to be worth finishing Turtle Rock and Misery Mire for it. And now prieR heading right back into the Dark World. This will set him up for this digging game, so let's hope that's his next stop. And meanwhile, Mystik is going back into Thieves' Town with the hammer. And, well, I guess hammer doesn't matter without the small key. I was going to say he is going to leave behind the big chest here in Thieves' Town. But we know that's going to turn out to be Ether, which is not required at all today. So not a big deal here. Mystik will be done with Thieves' Town in just a second. Seems to have forgotten which chests he has opened up since he's heading down in this direction, but doesn't really need to. So now here's the other reason why prieR wanted to rush for that fire rod, is because now we can clear out all of Ice Palace now that he has found that hammer. So I think as far as regular items go, prieR is officially in go mode. He's going to need the Desert Palace and Pod big keys, and he's going to need to track down that Swamp Palace entrance. Mystik has found the Pod big key, but I forget where at this point. As prieR finds the sewer key in Ice Palace. So the winner of this match will go on to face Scary Olive in the second round of the losers bracket. I believe the next opponent after that is set. Yeah, RD Walsh is next in line in the losers bracket. Alright, so prieR is likely to be full clearing Ice Palace here, since he is still on the lookout for those two big keys. And yep, we're going to clear out the full right-hand side. Another good application of this spiffy new hammer that prieR has. Ooh, Tempered Sword, that's nice. I was just about to say that prieR might be worried a little bit about the Ganon fight at this point, since he also hasn't tracked down the Silvers. But Tempered Silverless is a huge step up from Master Sword Silverless. So that's a lot less concerning. Alright, so there's Bombos inside Ice Palace, so we really did need to find those boots to get the Fire Rod to get into ice. So that seems to be the major advantage that prieR has right now. That Mystik has not tracked down the boots, so will not have Ice Palace access until he does. And now Mystik knows, or should know if he's tracking that hint that we found earlier, that all he's leaving behind in Thieves Town is Ether. So that puts him at 4 crystals. Which prieR is about to even up on in just a minute here. prieR showing off this free bomb jump across the pit here. Just wedge yourself in the doorway and press up. Big key to Skull Woods, just a fetch quest. Oh, Mystik finally coming back to the well for this 5th item that he couldn't check before because he had no bombs at the very start of the game. Just a heart. And now prieR will have a pretty easy cold stare fight with the added equipment that he's found in Ice Palace. Gonna Bombos off the shell. Tempered Sword makes this pretty quick work of the puffs, but does have the Fire Rod to fall back on if he wants to. Yeah, very nicely done. The puffs just barely get out of the corner before he burns them down. So there is prieR's 4th crystal, and he finds the small key to the Tower of Hera, another fetch quest. Alright, this is good for Mystik to have finished off Thieves Town just now, because now he's got access to the Pyramid Big Bomb entrance. Gosh, I'm trying to remember where the Big Bomb was. someplace really annoying. Like, wasn't it the left side of the brother's house, I think? So he can go open up that if he wants to, and most importantly, that'll take him to the top of the pyramid to mirror and check out those 3 entrances, which are the real blocker to his progress right now. prieR, meanwhile, going to take his hammer back into Ganon's tower. Full left side is available now. Ooh, there's the red cane, so now the full right side is also available, although he's going to start running into issues with keys if he tries to full clear the basement, and we also find Butter Sword in Dark Magician's room. Does opt to open up the map room for just one chest with one of his keys. So because he opened up that map room, that means the right side is not available to him right now. Again, neither one of those is necessarily in logic, but neither is randomizer room for that matter, with the number of keys that we have. So taking a little bit of a risk here. Can go to tile room if he wants to, but no further, unfortunately, on the right side. prieR up to 16 hearts now, because why not? Finds the big key to Swamp, yet another fetch quest. It's far more interested in finding the entrance to Swamp than the big key, but there we go. And then just some cash in those other 2 chests behind Ice Armor, so we are going to dip back in with our newly found red cane to check out Tile Room. Can definitely bite you if you skip it, so as much as you hate it, it's the right move to make, I think, for prieR. Using the classic turn on the cape and hold the wall trick. And meanwhile, Mystik unfortunately did not make a visit to the pyramid while he was in that area of the world. He is opting to follow these myths checks, can open up hammer pegs, track down the smiths. He is still looking for boots, so items are a little bit more important for him than entrances right now, unfortunately. So this is going to lead him off away from where he wants to go. But if he comes back for hammer pegs, he might pick up the big bomb from there and then incorporate that into a pyramid area check. The second agate tower key is pretty much completely useless. There's just a heart piece trapped behind the lumberjack entrance. So we're not worried about the Aga 1 trip today. Alright, so Mystik is headed right back down toward this entrance to the big bomb shop, which will put him in a pretty good position to track down those boots right away. We'll see how quickly he can make up the ground on prieR, who has had those boots for just a little bit. I think the stumbling block for prieR, though, is going to be the pod big key, which, again, I'm not sure where that was, but if it was in Misery Mire, which Mystik dipped into early, and where he found the silvers, I believe, that could be a bit for prieR. We'll see just what path he follows after this. prieR is walking right past the Vanilla Ice entrance. I guess he's going to check out the Dark World shopping mall first, and then maybe come back for Ice Palace. As now we'll get to see what's inside the pyramid as Mystik delivers the big bomb to the entrance. Ooh, so here's the big chest of Turtle Rock. This is the only entrance which will get you there. Has just a big 20 in it, unfortunately. prieR has not been to the Crystal Roller Room yet either, I believe. So this is the fastest way there as well. Mystik finding another connector inside the pyramid to the Quarreling Brothers' house. Decides not to follow it right away. I think that's the good call. Guarantee that you get the 3 entrances from the top of Hyrule Castle before you check out that one from the brothers. And so prieR has been through Chain Chomps, but now can check out the front chest in Turtle Rock with his Fire Rod and cane, of course. Might also head out the front entrance to see where it connects to. I'm not sure if there's any place particularly exciting that it might go that prieR can't get to otherwise, though. As Mystik does find Blind's hut over on the left, we'll track down the boots, the Quake, his first male upgrade from the looks of things. And prieR just finding a shield there in Turtle Rock. So Turtle Rock seems like a big bust today, unless Trinex or Saha with the green pendant have something interesting. Ooh, prieR finds the back of Spectacle Rock Cave. Can get an item here and also follow the connector all the way through if he wants to. I would suspect he would rather check out the other entrances in this area first, since again that's another one-way trip. Nope. Prove me wrong. We'll follow this connector immediately. Ooh, that is a good connector to find. Lets him out on the Mimic Cave bridge. So 4 entrances to check here, although I'm not sure which we have seen. I know we've seen the Spiral Cave vanilla entrance at the very least. So just some small keys there in the Waterfall Cave. And Hype Cave at the vanilla laser eye entrance to Turtle Rock. So this connector is really the only way to get there. And there's a big key to Desert Palace. Ooh, that's another big find for prieR. Again, anytime some important item is down a chain of connectors, you just expect it's a little bit random when your opponent is going to get there, right? When they decide to follow that particular chain all the way down in the right direction. So this one came from the Dark World Shopping Mall, which is definitely a common place to check. 3 entrances over there. prieR looks like he is going to head right over to Desert Palace, which is at Agina's Cave, and finish off Landmo right now. So yeah, prieR did leave a couple of entrances behind over in the Dark World Shopping Mall. The Vanilla Ice Palace entrance is in that area, and I believe I'm not sure if I saw him go in the entrance that you have to lift the rock to get to outside of the shopping mall. So since that swamp entrance is still at large, those entrances are vital for prieR, but he has found the dam and pulled the lever, so as soon as he finds swamp, he will be able to blaze his way through that one. The pod big key is now the big thing. Since Mystik has already found that one, that is the big advantage that Mystik has over prieR at this moment. So prieR gets a big 20 for the Landmo fight. More importantly, his 5th crystal. And he is rapidly closing in on the end of this seed. But once again, that elusive Swamp Palace entrance means who knows how long it's going to be until we actually track that one down. All right, so good news for Mystik. He's coming up on the Dark World Shopping Mall area as well. And so he will be finding that Spectacle Rock Cave, which will lead him through to Hype Cave to find the Desert Palace Big Key. He's going to follow this same path. Oh, he's already done some of the Turtle Rock checks, so we'll not go all the way backward through there. prieR is opting into Aga Tower. I'm going to check out this second chest, which I believe we have not seen yet. But no further, because again, Aga 1 is not required for us today. Yeah, I had a question in chat a bit ago about the pod big key. I'm not sure where that was, but I think it was prieR, since that was the big thing that Mystik opted into, but prieR did not early on in the seed. And now prieR is there, so we'll see if we're correct about that presumption, or opting back out. That is a curious move from prieR there. Maybe there's one entrance that he feels like he wants to check before he goes all the way into prieR. Yeah, he might should be headed back up to the Spike Cave entrance and then is going to go back down to prieR if he doesn't find anything that he's looking for there. I admit I'm confused now. Vanilla Turtle Rock entrance, I guess. So prieR finds just the other side of Spectacle Rock Cave there in the Turtle Rock main entrance. Also going to check out Hookshot Cave entrance here. Finds actual Spike Cave. It's more of this weird synchronicity that happens in Cross Keys. Our runners are going completely different places and then wind up in the exact same spot at the same time. Ooh, nice from prieR there, just setting up a quick little super speed on the steps to run out on very little magic with the Cane of Burna. Finds the big key to Ganon's tower. Game is just actively trolling him at this point, giving him the wrong big key. So he did clear off a couple of entrances there on Dark Death Mountain. Yeah, it seems like he is really trying to find Swamp before he goes into prieR. He's really trying to avoid that prieR play. So I don't think that Mystik has found the hint about where Ganon's tower is. I feel like if he had, he would be maybe trying to track that down at this point. Again, he knows where the fire rod is on the Desert Palace torch. He can get it whenever he wants to. He has seen that hint, chat is telling me. Okay, so now he's headed right back in to find his fire rod right now as I start talking about it. So and there is the swamp entrance at the Ice Palace main entrance. This is a bit of a downside, though, that if Mystik follows the same path that prieR did, pretty much, when Mystik eventually gets here, he will be able to go mode Swamp. which prieR will definitely spend some time still on the hunt for that pod big key. So as happens so often, even 2 hours in, it's a little bit hard to call who's ahead right now. If prieR had continued with that Misery Mire dip, he would be in great shape at this point. But since he opted out of it, sort of betting on Swamp, essentially, um, he's still got a little bit of work left to do. As Mystik is running back towards Ice Palace. Or not. The Ice Palace entrance is right there at the left side of the Elder Hut. I would think he'd be wanting to finish dungeons that he could right now, but if he's headed toward Ganon's Tower, I guess that would make sense also. Let's pick up the half magic out of the library. That might be preparation for this Ice Palace dip, because he could definitely just mirror back in front of that building and then have the portal ready to get into Ganon's Tower when he wants it. But nope, he was just going to get the half magic and is headed right back up into town. So yeah, maybe we will see that Ice Palace dip now. Another GT small, which is really not what prieR wants to see, because that makes it more likely that the GT climb is required. 2 Ganon's Tower small keys in a row. I mean, he would definitely finish Mire before he decided to climb Ganon's Tower at this point. But, still starts to put some doubt in your mind. And very quick Argus fight there with the Butter Sword. Unfortunately, out of magic for the Fire Rod shots here at the end, but Butter Sword still makes quick work of the second phase of Argus, and we are 6 crystals in. It's just that pod big key in Misery Mire that's slowing prieR down at this point. So prieR is dipping back in for the left side of Swamp. So sort of the logical order to do all of this in. Skip it if you possibly can, but don't leave it behind if you still haven't found what you're looking for. So we can definitely see a fairly quick path through the rest of the game for Mystik if he sort of god routes what he has left. Because once he finishes Ice Palace, that's going to let him out in Kakariko. Ganon's Tower Basement would definitely be a reasonable play next, since there are so many checks you can make there. And then finding the Desert Big Key, the entrance to the back of Desert, is around Lake Hylia, which would put him right outside the entrance to Swamp Palace. So there's definitely a world in which Mystik can finish the seed pretty quickly if he makes the right decisions with the things he has left to check. Gonna track down his tempered sword right now, so we'll feel very comfortable about the Ganon fight. prieR busting out the flute. We'll see if he heads back up to 1. Nope. He's going back to the Kakariko area. I hope this doesn't turn into a Ganon's tower climb. He might just take those small keys and do the right side. Since he did have to leave behind the compass room since he ran out of small keys in GT before. Yeah, let's see. Chat may be trying to set me straight here about where that Desert Palace big key was. Oh, I've forgotten at this point, unfortunately. So the DP big key might be on Dark Death Mountain. Yeah, unfortunately, at this point in the seed, I have lost track of where that particular item was. So we'll see it when Mystik finds it, I guess. Oh, that's right. Okay, yes. Thank you, Special Circumstances. Yeah, it was the Spectacle Rock drop down off of the bridge and then following that connector through, which led us out on the Mimic Cave connector bridge, and that's where the Desert Palace big key is. Yeah, that's real bad news for Mystik, because that's a very sort of one-off location as far as he's concerned, which is going to be tough for him to get back to. But in Mystik's favor, though, prieR is starting the Ganon's Tower climb. The pyramid is hiding the lumberjack location, so there is one extra item here in Ganon's Tower, and it's behind Aga 2, but this is still fewer items than Misery Mire would be, unfortunately, for prieR, but he was here, so he has decided to go ahead and make the climb right now. prieR making very nice work of those last 2 rooms of the gauntlet at the very least, getting the dash strats and then the arrow hit on the red Stalfos. And we will see here in just a second what prieR is going to find at the top of Ganon's tower. As we know, it won't be anything particularly helpful. He's got to hope that it's also not harmful. No weird fetch quests that he's going to follow down forever or something like that. So 10 arrows, another big 20. And there we're through Moldorm 2. Mystik's thinking in the right direction about how he hasn't seen these entrances up here on Death Mountain, but unfortunately this is not the right way to get to the particular entrances that he needs. So Mystik checking out that particular entrance right there. I swear both runners came out the Light World laser bridge door and then fluted away instead of dropping down to check that entrance. But Mystik sort of making a special trip back there, maybe wasn't sure about it on his tracker or something like that. As prieR is going to go ahead and fight Aga2 for this last item. Once you've committed to making the climb, you definitely want to get this one last item here out of the pyramid. And Mystik is going to find the Swamp Palace entrance. Sort of good news for prieR that Mystik is finding it right now, though, because since he is still missing a big key, he will not be able to go mode it. So yeah, full clear incoming. As prieR just finds a map there. The map of Ganon's tower, of course. About as worthless as it gets. So now out comes the flute again, and now we're back up on Death Mountain. So this might be the Misery Mire play from prieR. So to answer the question, prieR cleared Aga2 just to open up the pyramid dropdown, which led to the lumberjack tree location. Because there's no way to scout out that item beforehand. So if you're looking for an item, such as the pod big key, you just kind of have to YOLO Aga2. Unfortunately, did not pay off for prieR right now. And yeah, we are headed back down to Misery Mire, which is going to be a little bit of a tilter when he's realizes that this was a play he could have made about an hour ago at least, and that would have saved him a lot of time. At the very least, coming in this late, he's got all sorts of Misery Mire small keys, so can route through here fairly efficiently. We'll find his silver arrows, I believe, behind the cutscene. No, right there. That's right. The order in which they give you those hints are swapped in entrance randomizer. So he knew those silvers were there from the Swamp Palace hint. And he also knows the cutscene is garbage. And there it is. There is the pod big key, which will put prieR in go mode at 2:16:44. And not surprisingly, he will immediately mirror out. He is fully loaded for the Ganon fight. And so it's just a matter of taking down Helmasaur and then moving on to the big pig. So at this point, Mystik is finishing up the Argus fight. I feel like even if he absolutely god routed and just headed, you know, if we gave him the spoiler log and he headed straight toward the Desert Palace big key right now, he still might be hard pressed to catch up. It's a good moment, by the way, while prieR is working his way through the back of Palace of Darkness here, to give a shout out to our trackers. Tyler W. and Siberian are tracking for us today. And as much trouble as I'm having keeping track of everything with the trackers, imagine how bad it would be without their help. So thanks to those two for keeping me on track. And yet, Mystik has not really done much of anything in Ganon's tower as of yet, so that's definitely a logical place to go looking for big keys. So things are looking a little grim for Mystik at this point, just since prieR is so close to the end of this race. So a quick silver arrow into the head of Helmasaur, and prieR will collect his 7th crystal. And it does find that mirror shield. Laser Bridge is really in logic now. And now just a quick flute back to 3 to the Magic Bat location, which is hiding Ganon today. And as long as prieR can avoid, dying about 6 or 7 times, this will definitely be his race. Easy 1-on-1 with Butter Sword. Just dodge a couple fire bats here. Or, you know, get hit by one, because you got red mail and 17 hearts, so who cares? And a nice double. And set up for another one. And that will do it. As long as he can avoid falling in between now and the Triforce room. This will be prieR's race, so get your GGs in chat. And there it is. with a quasi-official time of 2 hours, 21 minutes, and 38 seconds. prieR will win this race and move on to the second round in the loser's bracket. So, congrats to prieR. So we'll see if we can get our winner in chat here for an interview. Mystik checking the GT Big Chest and finding 50 rupees. So there's one mystery solved. Mystik also getting trolled by that big key behind Ice Armos. Different one than he was looking for, but equal opportunity trolls from the seed there. And it appears we have an official FF from Mystik at this point. But we do have our winner in chat. Congratulations, GG. How did you feel about that seed?
Hello, thanks for the GG. What I think about that seed, nothing too special. I think it wasn't that bad. It was accepting myths in pod. I was searching for Dark World access all that time, and finally found myths in pod. Yeah, why not?
Yeah, Mystik found the Moon Pearl well before you did, but didn't have enough keys to check Harmless Hellway when he got to pod, so that meant you were a lot more efficient in that, since you found those myths, which ended up being required on your first trip into pod there.
Oh, all right.
Hello.
So yes, Mystik is also here in chat with us. GG Mystik. How about your initial thoughts on that seed?
I thought it was going well, and then I can never find that stupid key. Or Swamp. Swamp took me way too long to find.
Yeah, Swamp was about the last entrance that that both of you found, as it turned out. So that was definitely trolling you guys for quite a while.
Yeah. And I feel like some of my death mountain routing was pretty bad, but overall I felt good about it.
So for you, Mystik, it was the have you heard where the Desert Palace Big Key was?
No, I haven't.
So it was on the I think behind the Vanilla Mimic Cave entrance, somewhere on that ledge, and the connector to get there you had to fall down from the Spectacle Rock Cave.
On the way. Because I
Yeah,
took the
it
drop.
was right entrance at La Kilia.
Yeah,
Kilia Lake, I think.
Yeah, I bomb jumped across and it dumped me out at TR entrance, so I didn't get back there at any time. So had I been able to go back in, I would have found it on the next drop down. That sucks. Oh well. That's how it goes.
Yeah, there were definitely a couple things like that, a couple connectors deep. that it's just hard to know what's the right one to follow. Same with getting to Pod and finding the Moon Pearl. That was definitely much trickier to get through unless you track down the right connector right away.
Yeah, that had me feeling pretty good early because I just kind of took a dive down some connectors and found Pod like immediately with 3 keys. It's like, okay, I gotta go for it. There's something in here.
Yeah, I think I got 4 keys when I went there.
Yeah, I had the 3 from the early, like, I think it was like early Kakariko dip or stuff, and then I found it off of I've deleted the connector now, but one of the connectors right there at the beginning went straight to Meyer. It may have been hookshot. But, oh well. GG's, prieR. Good luck the rest of the way, man.
Thanks, GG.
GG.
I must say, I feel pretty lucky finding myths in Pod because I could have go to the vanilla big key chest and and I got lucky. So
Yeah.
I'm sorry about that, but
No,
things that can happen.
I got the myths my second time in because I'd saved scum my last key the first time in, and so I got them when I went back to actually finish Pod, and it just happened to find the myths in that second dip.
So yeah, we also saw you prior going back into Misery Mire and then opting out of it. Were you just thinking that you wanted to find Swamp first and hopefully avoid that Misery Mire dip at the end?
Yeah, I was hoping for Pod Big Key in Swamp. I gambled that, but I didn't find any big key in Swamp. So I came back in Ganon's Tower, finished it, and found nothing. So the most intense area to check left was Missouri Mire, so I chose to go there and found that big key.
Yeah, and you definitely both got trolled by that big key behind Ice Armos. I think that was Swamp, maybe,
Yeah,
because we were both looking for a different big key at that time, and it gave you the wrong one.
I think I found 2 big keys after needing only Desert big key. I think I found Skull and Swamp while trying to find Desert. Because Skull was in something that I did right before Swamp Palace.
Yeah, and a lot of big keys were unnecessary.
Mm-hmm.
Mystery Mire big key, Turtle Rock big key, Ice Palace big key, and we had all of them excepting Desert Palace and Pod big keys. So
Yeah.
So yeah, well, GG's again to both runners. Thank you for volunteering your time to put on a great show for us in this tournament and everything. We appreciate it, and congrats to prior, and good luck moving forward in the tournament.
Yeah, thanks, and thanks for commentating. Thanks taking time to work on that race, restreaming, commentating, tracking. Thanks to all that people making that tournament possible, and thanks to Zelda Speedruns who host us.
Yeah, thanks for the restream and everything, guys. Thanks for the commentary as usual. And prior, good luck against Scary Olive. I think that's who's next.
Yep, that is up next, and I think we should wrap things up here because I believe there's in fact another race starting allegedly 5 minutes ago on this channel. I'm not sure if they've been moved to another channel or if we should clear things out for them. So we'll wrap it up here. Thanks everybody for watching, and stay tuned to Zelda Speed Races for more of or Zelda Speed Runs rather, for more of this great Cross Keys tournament. Thanks everybody.